What up, guys? My name's Sean, and I'm actually going to remake my Photoshop tutorial on how to make GIFs because my last two that I made were actually in two parts and they were some crap. So, depending on how you get your video file, your method for doing this is going to change. What I do is I use a program called Fraps, and that's a screen recording program, and I usually record either if I use it from YouTube, I use a link when I post it on Tumblr to the actual video, or if I actually physically record my gameplay, and I use that to make my GIFs. All of that, I mean, universally, it's going to be the same. So what you need to do once you have that is you need to record it or convert it to a MOV file, and you can use that through this program here. It's a basic media converter. If you Google it, you will find it. I have Windows, so Mac users, I think I use something called Total Video Converter Pro. It's the same thing. Essentially, you're going to find it. It's going to be free, so no worries with that. And once you have your file, you want to go to File, Import Video Frames to Layers, and here's where I have all my videos so far. I had to clean it out earlier because I had too many. Let me convert something real quick. This is how the converter works. You go and you find your file. Let's see. I'll do this one for the sake of doing it. Convert this, and it's going to be a footage from Majora's Mask, so yeah. It's really going to depend what you do, depending on what you're actually GIFing. Like if you're GIFing a movie, obviously you're not going to use the same colors, but I'm going to try to go over basic things that you can do to enhance the quality of your GIFs and really make them look presentable or different or unique. So here we have the video, it loaded, and I'm going to crop it using this tool up here. It's the crop tool, and you just click enter and it fixes the size, and we're going to play through it and see. Now one of the important things that you have to do when you're doing these animations is you really have to go through every single frame, because sometimes Photoshop duplicates the frame, which is a pain in the ass, but it happens. And like they create 2 of the same frame or 3 of the same frame back to back, and so there's little glitches and pauses within your animation, which is a pain in the ass. And really that's why you want to play through your GIF so you can find a loop. And sometimes you're not always going to have a loop because Tumblr only lets you use less than 1 megabyte. So alright, so I'm going to stop there. That'll be good enough. And we're going to press shift and go to the end to cut that out. So we have our first 74 frames here. Lovely. There you go. We're going to go through here. Delete, delete. There we go. Okay. Go to the next one. Okay. Up, up, up. Awesome. Shit. Yeah, sometimes, depending on what you're GIFing, this is really annoying because sometimes it's hard to see if the frame actually moved. Like I also GIF Skyrim and Fallout New Vegas and Fallout and stuff like that, and it's hard because sometimes, depending on what you're recording in, if you're recording in 60 FPS, like the movements can be really small and not noticeable. Alright. Yeah, and like I said, this is a tedious process, but it's important, otherwise you have pauses and other such in your GIFs, and that kind of takes away the effect. Alright. There we go. Alright, so I have my animation here. It's probably not going to be perfect, but it's a tutorial, so. How many frames is this? 20. So if you want to set your frame rate, if you notice how this is kind of fast, you can slow it down. So you select your first frame, and you scroll over to your last, and you want to hold shift so that you can enter all the frames that you just passed at the same time. Click on the second bar, go to Other, and then this little menu will pop up. And normally I do 12 or 0.12 seconds, so 1/12 of a second. So it's sometimes slow, but I normally have to cut out frames, which it allows me to not have to change the frame rate again. So here we go. Let's start physically editing this. So I have Photoshop CS5, and I'm pretty sure it's universal for all versions of Photoshop, but what you want to do is you want to scroll up all the way to your last frame, and that's where you want to make your edits. Otherwise, they're not going to show up. And you click on this little black and white circle at the bottom, and a whole menu of things will pop up. And I already selected brightness, contrast, because that's normally what I do firsthand. So to give you an example of what it does, this is an extreme. This is all bright. This is all dark. Normally, obviously, I don't go that far. It's just like subtle changes. I normally affect the brightness a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so that's brightness. We'll go to levels. Levels is, I don't normally use this one, but it lets you add color. So if you move this way, see how it gets a little green tint? You can add the red to that. Oh, no, this is red over here. And have that sort of cool looking color turn out. Curves, I use this sometimes. If you pull it up, it gets lighter. If you pull it down, it gets darker. If you pull it up and then you pull it down, it's cool, I think it adds more dimension to the GIF. And that ultimately makes it look cooler, I guess, or different. Exposure is one I use sometimes when there's little, depending on what you save your file as, if you save it as diffusion or pattern or no dither, you might want offset. Offset adds that little, you see how that little tent screen is changing? It adds a little, I want to say like a film over your GIF. And that, some people like that, some people don't. Exposure is more of a brightening. I don't really use exposure that much, but I guess you could. Gamma correlation, same with exposure. You kind of use exposure and gamma correlation, correction, sorry, together. But like I said, I don't really use them, so I'm not sure I'm going to keep that. Well, sure, I'll keep it. Vibrance. Vibrance is sort of like saturation. It changes how much of one color is in your picture or your GIF. So like if you see I put it up all the way, it looks a little bit more like the color is more vibrant. And there, if I put it at the bottom, it's absent. Same with saturation. So if you put vibrant down here and then saturation, sorry, up there, it makes a, I don't know. I don't really use this one either. But like I said, if you want to play around with it, that's your, you can totally do that. Hue, saturation. I do this for isolating individual colors. So like, let's say if you wanted only yellow in your GIF or your photo, you would have to turn the saturation off for all the other colors. So let's see, we turn off, let's get the blues. And you might have to do this multiple times because saturation doesn't completely lack all of the colors out, or sap all the colors out, but now you can see that only yellow is left in this GIF, or tints of yellow. And that's cool sometimes, for enhancing colors. I'm gonna take that out, and let's go down. Color balance. I use this sometimes. It's kind of the same as levels, except it gives you a little bit more variety. So like if you wanted red, if you added your offset, and you wanted it to be more of a red foam, you could use this to give it more of a red tint or a blue tint. And then just play around with what all these colors give you. I don't really like that. There, that looks kind of cool. There you go. Alright, so black and white completely is self-explanatory. It makes it black and white. If you want this, then choose it. There's not much really to talk about that. Photo filter adds colors, and it's very, very, like it starts out, I usually norm the 25% density, and if I do anything, I normally use orange, but if you want to test out all these colors and see if it works with what you're doing, sometimes if you add photo filter in black and white, it gives it a cool, like, I have orange out here, so it gives it a cool sepia tone. I've done this with, I think, one of the cooling filters, and it gives it kind of a cool old-time movie look to it, but that also increases the file size, so just be careful of that. Alright, channel mixer. This one's cool because it brings out certain colors. You have to change the output if you want to go to blue. Changes the red, green, blue, and each of the blue colors, so it ultimately affects the tint of the blue and the color. It's unique to play with. It kind of looks cool. It's like a zombie. It's cool. I'll probably keep that. There's a lot of color in this one. Invert. All the ones down here I don't normally use. It's like an invert negative. And posterize, I don't use that one either. Threshold. I don't think I've ever used this. But if that's something you want to play with, totally go for it. And then your gradient map. We should probably do gradients first. I'm going to do that first. Gradient is at the top. Adding gradients is a cool way to either whiten the screen, darken it, or kind of give it a mood. If you use black, per se, like what I normally do if I use black is I'll change linear to radial and then reverse it. And then you want to decrease the opacity so that it's not all black. It doesn't really look great, but if you can understand what I'm trying to create here, it makes it darker. Or if you want to use white, normally what I do if I want to use white is hold on, give me a second. Alright, so you close this, and then I normally do linear for white. I don't want to reverse it. And then you can angle it downwards or diagonal. You just got to play around with it where you want it to be. It ultimately is going to just depend upon where the lightest part of the screen is. Oh boy. Yeah, so I have to turn. Funny, okay, so this is probably good that this happened. If you find yourself with this problem where like you see these eyeballs over here, that shows you what is actually showing. So all the stuff that I turned off for the last frame did not go with every single one else. You have to highlight all of the frames and then close the eyeballs, and then only then it'll affect. Great, wow, there's a lot. All right. Cool. Now, what do they have here? All right, so I guess we're ready to move on to the next part. So let's say this is our GIF. We have it, we like it, but we want to increase the depth and the sharpness of the GIF. So what you want to do is you want to go up to Image, and if you're saving this for Tumblr, you want to change the width to 500. Anything over 500 or under 500 will be distorted and look weird and blurry, and that's not, I don't like when that happens. So also it increases the file size. You don't really want that. Also, if you're doing this is just for a regular GIF. If you're doing like multiple GIF sets, where there are, like, let's say there's 2 GIFs in each width box. I think the width for that is 242 if I remember correctly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sharpen it. And sharpening is a cool way to, like I said, add depth to the GIF and make it, like I said, more crisp. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you sharpen it, I'll show you what the ultimate effect is. But a quick way to do this is you have to go and edit, unfortunately, every single frame. But if you go up to the frame and you hit Control F, it sharpens that frame. So it goes by a little bit faster, but this is a tedious process. So Control F, go up to your next frame, Control F, yeah, and you'll be able to see what frame it's on by the eyeball. Control F, Control F, okay. Control F, Control F, Control F. Alright, 10 more. Only 10 more, folks. Control F. Yeah, sometimes I sharpen my GIFs, sometimes I don't. If I'm GIFing Majora's Mask, sometimes it doesn't matter. If I'm GIFing something like Skyrim, though, normally I always sharpen. Otherwise, it doesn't look as crisp and clean. Plus, with stuff in HD, normally you have to. Like most of my photographs that I do, that I edit, I sharpen. But since this is kind of cartoony, sometimes it doesn't turn out so well. Alright, so I got the last frame. So, one thing that you want to do now is, some of you might want to add a watermark, some of you might not. I'll show you how to do that anyway. So you want to go back up to where you have all your edits, and I normally will put it somewhere near the bottom, because if you put it near the contrast and stuff like that, then it gets a little bit more see-through and clear. So you want to go up to your typing tool, which is this little T over here. I use Tunga. I don't know what everyone else uses. Going to go up to 9-point font. Let's see how big that is. Let's see, put up here the stone mask. It's my URL. Alright. And you want to change the opacity, otherwise it's just going to be blindingly there. So I put it down to 35. That's normally about what I do, like 35, 40. And now let's preview what it looks like. So you want to go to File, and you want to go to Save for Web and Devices. There you go. Alright, so we have our file, and we can see how big our file size is over here under where it says GIF. It says 451K. And that's good. It has to be under 1 megabyte, which is like 1024 K, so that definitely makes the cut. And it's sharpened, so then you can press the play button, see your animation. Oh, I wonder what that happened. Okay, so here we have a little blip. It looks like I forgot to cover something. Huh. I don't know what that is, so I'm just going to delete my last frame. And let's say that we didn't like that. We didn't like the loop on that. We wanted to make it more not noticeable that this GIF loops. One thing that you can do is you can take the last frame, and if you want to you want to click it, right click, go to duplicate layer, click OK, and now you have that copy. You want to drag the 60, let's say it's layer 65 copy, you want to drag it all the way down in the first frame, make sure it's over it, and then change the opacity to, I normally do 40, and then you duplicate that layer again, and you put that over the second layer, the second frame, and you change that opacity to 20. And that will give it sort of like a fusing back to the loop point. See? And that helps it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and save this one. Oh, hold on. Let me go over what the options are. So up here you have selective. That's the best. That's what I use. You can also use perceptual. There's not much of a difference. Doesn't really change the file size at all. And I always change mine or save mine as pattern. There's other options. You can do diffusion, which gives you that grainy stuff. The gradients don't always work well with diffusion. You can also do no dither. Like I said, the gradients also don't work well with that, so I normally stick with pattern. Don't use noise. Noise, I mean, all of these generally decrease the file size except for pattern. Alright, so you want to double check that you got everything. You're saving it as GIF. If it's not on GIF, click this box down and it will show you. Colors 256, image size 500, height 275. Height doesn't always matter. Quality, some people get all mad about what to use here. I never notice a difference with any of these. I've heard that nearest neighbor is the best, so that's what I use. And looping forever, you want to make that forever, otherwise it's going to go twice and then stop and then never move again. So alright, so we're going to click ahead and we're going to go save it. Save it someplace that you can easily find it. I always save mine as MM if it's Majora's Mask, or I normally just get the abbreviations. 11, no, 12, there we go. Okay, so save that as the 12th GIF. And that's it. Now you're ready to upload your stuff. So thank you guys for watching, and get out there and start photoshopping.